And welcome to the Weston Homes Stadium. My name is Phil Adlam, and this is our pre-match attempt at such a show. So if anything goes wrong, we blame the producer, Jake Baxter. We'll get that out very clearly now. But hopefully we'll get you pumped for today's game, which is against Championship side Coventry City. Now the game against Coventry is two games, so there's 90 minutes, two separate team lineups. The first game kicks off at 1 p.m. and the second game we anticipate will start around about 3:20. Now you can buy the stream for that game for £7.50. If you go to theposh.com and follow the instructions, you'll be able to see all the action from today's game. Now, of course, we want you, the fans, to be involved, so you can send us feedback. Email Jake at theposh.com with any thoughts you have about the show, what you'd like to see, what you don't like to see, probably my face if I'm being brutally honest, but that's where we are at this moment in time. So what can you expect on today's show? Well, we'll be speaking live to manager Darren Ferguson. He'll talk through the team lineup for today's game. Both games, if he can remember the exact players that are playing in both games. My betting, probably not. We'll also be viewing the pre-match press conference with Darren, where he talks about the most recent arrival, striker Johnson Clark-Harris. Later in the show, we'll be speaking to safety officer Sye Roberts to find out just exactly how we've got the Weston Homes Stadium COVID ready for today's fixture and what exactly goes in to making sure it is safe for everybody. We'll also be speaking to midfielder Lewis Reed. Now, we spoke to Lewis during our time at St George's Park. Obviously, since then, he's been made available for transfer. We don't feature that within the interview, but there's plenty of content about his good mate, Matty Godden, who should line up for the Sky Blues today. We also might mention Matty Godden's quiff. We also talk a bit of technical stuff in terms of a deep line midfielder, so hopefully you'll enjoy a little bit of an insight into what playing in that position is all about. So we're going to be speaking to manager Darren Ferguson in around about 5 minutes, but first we're going to listen to his pre-match press conference, which was filmed on Thursday. You mentioned before, obviously, Vice Captain Nathan Thompson and obviously Captain Mark Beavers. Are you almost ready for the season now? You've got pretty much all your jigsaws in place, apart from, of course, getting some players out the door.
Yeah, I think the important bit now is obviously we're probably 95% closure on the squad for the season. And obviously when you bring players in, added to what you've already got, there has to be a surplus to that, which means that players have to move on, especially now with the salary cap. I can only fit so many players within that. And I've spoken to certain individuals about that, and obviously it's never easy as a manager to say, look, the way the situation is, you need to perhaps look for another club, but I have to do it. And yeah, there's a few players at least that would need to move on.
Is it? We spoke about this before. It's about honesty as a manager, isn't it? You've just got to sit them down and say, look, I'm very sorry, but we have a surplus, and because of the salary cap, you can't hang anyone out to dry in terms of sitting on the bench.
No, it's nothing personal, and if it is, it's a footballing decision I make. Not all of them are due to the salary cap. Some of them are purely footballing decisions, and I'm fortunate that I've managed to get in the players I want. So you can't just keep getting in and not letting players go. So I have to balance it off. And in terms of what I wanted for the positions that I needed filling, in terms of where I needed, and I felt a little bit of improvement. We brought certain players in that hopefully can do that. The actual, possible starting 11 is not going to be too much different, but we needed to balance it and get the right strength of depth in the squad, and I feel we've done that. I've been absolutely delighted with the players we've brought in, all the way from when we brought Dan in, and then we've gone through the team. We've had a little bonus, Edwards, in terms of coming in, so. We're pleased.
And in terms of the game against Coventry, similar to what you've done previously in terms of two 90-minute fixtures, it gives everybody a chance to get minutes in the belt?
Yes, possibly maybe have a couple of players that just do 45, but generally we're going to look at everyone having a 90 minutes, and then it's all guns blazing after that, isn't it? It really is. So I think the timing of the game with Coventry, which for me will be our toughest test, because they're a very good team. They've added to the team that got promoted last season. Now we're looking forward to it, and it's on a new in the stadium, so I'm pleased about that as well. So no, it's a really good game for us, and like you say, it'll be 90 minutes, and then we'll just have a normal week leading up to the Cheltenham game.
I know you've had a number of games so far, including a couple in the stadium. This game being in our stadium and learning the protocols involved in that is going to be a real challenge to get through to make sure you can concentrate on the football as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had a meeting this morning with the logistics of Saturday and what it brings. There are changes. I mean, Saturday's going to be different to this season because obviously there's 4 teams as opposed to 2, so there is a challenge to that. But you know, we've just got to be sensible. I mean, the club have been fantastic in terms of sorting the stadium out, especially when we had a bit of damage to it. Everyone's really mucked in and got it all sorted. So people should take a lot of credit for that. The organisation will be there as clear as day in terms of the zones we have to go in. But really for the players, and in terms of the 2 teams, it actually works quite well, where one's almost not even going to be in connection with the other. So, but then obviously after that, we'll just have to make sure that the players are aware of where they have to be and where they can't go.
Yeah, 2 awards dished out today. One EFL Player of the Year for League One, Ivan Toney. And after the season he had, you can't really argue with that. The club has also won the Family Club of the Year, which is obviously a lot of stuff that's been done off the pitch. It's always nice to be recognised, whether it's on or off the pitch.
Well, I think it's a really, really fantastic award. Both, obviously, Ivan, we felt, the season he had, there was no surprise there. He had a fantastic season, the boy, and we don't know how many goals he would have got if the season had been finished. So he fully deserves it. In terms of the family award, it's great. I mean, the club's really moved on in the sense of, the amount of you guys going out to schools all the time. I know Jason really drives it home, and so yeah, it's a fantastic award and thoroughly deserved. So, there's a lot of work that people may not see. So hopefully this is, in the obviously will be in the public domain, and people can see how much work we actually put in off the pitch as opposed to on it.
By Peterborough United manager Darren Ferguson. Darren, your team lineup for the first game today.
First game, so it's Christian goal, and back 3 of Tomo, Beeves, Frankie Kent, 2 wing backs of Joe Ward and Dan Butler, and in the middle of the park we've got Jack Taylor, Reece Brown, Ryan Broom, and up front we've got Johnson making his debut and Sariki.
Obviously Johnson signing this week. Are you going to give him the full 90?
Well, he's done a 90 last week, so we feel that he's ready for the 90. Obviously he's just joined, he's just walked through the door. I've just got to be careful, when you join a new club, for maybe that little bit of nerves or tension. So we'll see. I mean, we'll have a look at the players. Certainly we want the majority of them to get another 90 minutes. Dan Butler will have to have a look at and assess him after 75, and probably John will say, but John has had 30, 60 and 90, so we feel he'll be okay.
How's he trained in the day or 2 that he's been with you? Yeah,
we did a bit of tactical work on Thursday. It was important we did that, and he's still getting to know the players and getting to know the way we want to play, because there's obviously each team that you play for, you would imagine, plays slightly differently. So he's getting used to that. This game will obviously help him, and he'll get a lot out of it. But the boy's a very good striker. He's our number 1 target. We're delighted to get him in. He gives us something different up front that we certainly need.
People will probably be viewing this and thinking, well, that's Darren's starting lineup for next week against Cheltenham in the Carabao Cup. You can't read too much into it.
No, I think I've got 2 teams that are going to play 90 minutes, and lots can happen in a week. You can see something that you might not have seen in pre-season in terms of tactically, or someone really has a really good game. So we've got a squad of players, and people will read into it that that's going to be my starting team, but it's not as simple as that as a manager. You can see different things. We've had a look at Cheltenham, who also play a back 3, so there's certain things we want to see from today's game. But no, listen, we've got a squad of players that's obviously, I think, been announced the other day in terms of what we're going to be probably working with. And they're all going to be used. As simple as that. It's going to be a really relentless season. I've said that many times, and it simply is going to be that. So we're going to use all the squad, and the starting team, whatever it is against Cheltenham, you'd be lucky if you finish with that at the end of the season.
And of course, the second team will obviously be watching the first team or bits of the game when they get here. Would that be important for them to know what they need to do?
Well, yeah, but I think we do that much work anyway. I do think it can be a little bit more difficult for the second team, but come to the same. I think they're going very strong in the first game, speaking to Mark. So I would imagine it'll be 2 really good games. We wanted this fixture. We got this one quite early, in the sense that they're a very good team. They're very good in possession. Derby game apart at St George's, we've probably had most of the ball. So I feel that we're going to learn a lot today defensively. Not that they're going to have all of the ball, but certainly they'll have probably more than the other opposition we've had. So I feel that that's going to be a really good game for us. And then Monday we'll pick the bones out of it. And then obviously we're ready to go. But the week at St George's, the week we've just had, we really started the season in the last couple of weeks and planned as if the season has started officially.
Matt Godden in the Coventry lineup, obviously you worked with him.
Yeah, Matty, lovely lad, great lad, great boy. Yeah, love working with him. Really good player. Didn't get enough games that he wanted to start. You know, we obviously brought in Mo and Ivan was flying, and I felt with Godders he needed to go and get games. Obviously, Mark brought him in and he did ever so well. It didn't surprise me. And when I got asked about the best player in League One outside of our team, I picked Godders because I thought he played a massive part in them getting promoted.
And just finally, you're not in the normal dressing room today. You've got to make a new area your home because of the restrictions. How are you finding that?
Yeah, it's all right. It's a good, it's a good size area, the venue, and it's not a bad idea. But obviously, we can't use it in our regular matches in terms of, next week it'll just be 2 teams, whereas this week we had to give Coventry both dressing rooms. But listen, it is what it is. The players will just get on with it. There can be no excuses on that. We get changed, we play the game, and we get on with it. So I think we're all looking forward to our first game at the stadium. The pitch looks magnificent, so hopefully we have 2 good games.
Well, best of luck today. Thank you very much for joining us, Darren. We're going to go into some adverts now. Chris hopefully will recover from the fact he nearly fell over on that step just there. So some adverts for my key sponsors. Welcome back to the Weston Homes Stadium. As you can see, preparations continuing for today's game with Coventry City. The first game kicks off at 1 p.m. Remember, you can buy the stream going to the official website, which is theposh.com. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we spent our pre-season training camp at St George's Park, home of the England football team. During that stay there, we caught up with midfielder Lewis Reed, who talked about his friendship with Coventry City striker Matty Godden and the technical intricacies of playing in his midfield position. Well, Louis, Coventry City are the opponents today, and a familiar face in the Coventry ranks, so you know very well Matt Godden. I know you're quite close in terms of off the pitch as well. It seems a strange question to ask you, but how did you get so close? Was it golf?
Possibly, yeah. No, I don't really know what it was. He just kind of clicked the first day he came in. I think we were actually at the Marriott together in Peterborough when we both joined, because it was the same season. And we got on really well from the first minute.
Seems strange sometimes because dressing rooms are a tight unit, regardless of whether you love someone or hate someone. You get on as a club quite well, but it's always nice when you find an actual person you describe as a friend, as opposed to, say, a teammate.
Yeah, it's like you say, everyone kind of gets on with each other. There's never really any bad blood between people, but you do kind of pick up sort of little groups within the team, and that's what me and Goddard did when we were together here. So yeah, it'd be good to see him. It
seems a little bit blasé to say, but you can go through a whole football career, and then when your football career finishes, you might look through your phone book and contact them once in a blue moon. But sometimes it does feel like you might come in and out of each other's lives, like you have with Goddard.
Yeah, you tend to meet, obviously being footballers, you meet a lot of people, whether it's staff or players or just people in and around the club. But it's rare that you tend to stick and speak to the same person on a lot of occasions. But me and God have done that. I think through lockdown we spoke to each other pretty much every day, so yeah, we get on really well.
What was he like to play with? Because he actually scored quite a lot of goals for the football club, didn't he? And he was quite unfortunate in the sense that there were obviously other strikers who probably got more opportunity in front of him at the time, but he had a good ratio.
Yeah, he's a nuisance. He's quite you don't really expect it from him, but he's quite good in the air. He's got a good spring to him. And I think that causes defenders a lot of problems because, like I said, they're just not expecting it. And like you say, in front of goal, he does what he does. He puts the ball away.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you talk to people who maybe come up against their brother, like maybe the Nevilles have done in the past, and whether you think about it whatsoever during the game. Do you think it'd be weird coming up against him today?
Possibly, yeah. I know we were supposed to play when we played Coventry last season. I think he was out for injury, and we're quite looking forward to seeing each other on the pitch as opposed to playing with each other. So yeah, I think it will have a bit of a weird side to it, but yeah, mostly just looking forward to seeing him again.
Can we talk about the quiff? Because I understand it's on the way back.
From pictures I've been sent on Snapchat and other things, I think it is on the way back. I'm not quite sure what made him get rid of it, but the Matty Godden I know he's known for his quiff.
He's got big hair, to be fair to him. In terms of pre-season as a whole, I mean, obviously it'd be nice to get our first home game under the belt, because this season's going to be weird in so many different ways, but the stadium football without fans, you kind of got to get used to that environment, haven't you?
Yeah, so I think obviously playing today behind closed doors, no fans, it's a taste of what's to come for the rest of the season. So like you said, being back in the stadium for the first time at home is going to be big for us, and we just need to get a feel for it, really.
And do you think it'd be weird? I mean, it's always going to be different, isn't it? Is it going to take a little bit to get used to?
I think so. The fans are such a big part of today's game that without them, it kind of just feels, it can get sort of a pre-season feel to it where there's not many people there. It might slow the tempo of the game down, but I think if we do get a few games there without the fans, I'm sure we'll pick it up.
Did you watch many of the Premiership and Championship games, and how was it to a watcher, to a viewer?
Well, I had to put the crowd noise on. I couldn't bear to watch it where you could just literally hear the players and that was it. So I watched it with crowd noise every game, and it's not the same. Not the same.
I think scoring a goal is probably going to be the weirdest thing, because naturally you would run in a general direction of supporters and you live for the adulation of scoring a goal, and I suppose that's where it's going to be really key not to get too down by the fact that they're not there.
Yeah, especially if there's some of the lads' families have come to watch them and they've managed to score, you look for family members to run towards them. So yeah, it's going to take some getting used to, but I think we'll cope fine.
With midfielder Lewis Reed. Part 2 is coming up later on in the show. I think we basically learned from that first chat with him that him and Godden's talk every single day. I'd be worried if I was his missus, I think, to be honest. But Matt Godden is here. I've seen his quiff. Very hard to identify anybody wearing a mask these days, but Matt Godden's quiff is so high that I'm pretty sure I've said hello to the right person. Mark Robson and Mark Tyler behind us at this moment in time are getting the cones out ready for the players' arrival for the warm-up ahead of today's first game with Coventry City, which kicks off at 1 p.m. Remember, if you've not yet purchased the stream for that game, you can do so by going to the club's official website, which is www.theposh.com. It is the main story on the site, so just click and follow the instructions. It's £7.50, but that gives you access to both games. The first kicks off at 1 p.m. and the second we expect to kick off around about 3:20 p.m. Now, as you can see below, you can see the starting lineup that was given to us by manager Darren Ferguson earlier on in the show. So if you've not yet seen it, or you'd like me to read through it, I can do that. So in goal is Christy Pym, 3 centre halves, Nathan Thompson, Frankie Kent and skipper Mark Beavers. Dan Butler will be the left wing back, with Joe Ward operating on the right. In midfield, you've got Reece Brown and Jack Taylor. Ryan Broom will be just behind Sariki Dembele and Johnson Clark Harris, who of course makes his first appearance since returning to the club. He was here a little while ago in his career. Of course, he had a spell at Coventry during his younger days as well, so very much looking forward to today's contest. Of course, there's plenty of people viewing. We're getting plenty of comments, including from El Presidente, Darren McAnthony, who says he loves it. So I'll be going straight into his office for a pay rise at around about 11:52. But hopefully, if you are watching the show, you're enjoying it. As I said earlier, this is our first go at it. So if there are any things you'd like to see, things you wouldn't like to see, make sure you give us some feedback by emailing jake@theposh.com. Now, one thing we didn't consider when doing a live show was, would the sprinkler get me? Now, we've just noticed to the left that it has started. I did have a quiet word with our groundsman and said, look, we're going to be doing a live show. Please make sure that I don't get wet. So I'm confident by standing here that I'm not going to get a soak in, but if I do, expect me to be running somewhere deep into this stand. So team lineup you can view below. Remember as well, if you are watching the stream and want to see updates as well, you can do so by following our Twitter service, which is @Matchday Live on Twitter. Now, as I say, later on the show, we have got a chat with Lewis Reed, which is going to be part 2. We've also got some adverts as well for you coming up now. 2 weeks ago, here's a recap of our stay there.
St George's Park is brilliant. It's a fantastic national centre, and you know we're very lucky to have this quality here. You know, if you go back before this was built, we was mainly sort of Lillyshaw, and you know, we ended up sort of going around the country really. So to actually have a place that's home for the national side is terrific, and you know the quality of everything. Like you said, the pitches, the gym, the hotels, you know, the meeting rooms. The quality is excellent, and it's great for us to be here this week. Like I said, we can get a lot of great work done on these fantastic pitches. So. Yeah, it is a great place. It's a great place to come and work.
It's a fantastic setup. You know, the facilities here are, you know, second to none. The pitches are immaculate, and you know they've got the hotel and the facilities. Like everything's in house. You've got the pool as well. So to, you know, get the chance to come here as a group is fantastic.
I think it's my third time here. I mean, it's unreal, isn't it? Got everything here and just enjoying it.
It's been really good. The facilities are perfect. The food's good, and it's just good to be just here for football and just getting it done.
That's my first time I've ever been here. Yeah. No, I'm really impressed with like the facilities and stuff like that, and obviously the pitches, the quality is so good. Like just to move the ball quicker, just makes such a difference.
Great facilities, unbelievable. Like if anybody who's here in England hasn't seen this, it's quite spectacular, and it's really allowed us to get the team focused, and the energy level's been fantastic.
Coronavirus restrictions, it was meant that our pre-season training camp would be in this country. But what a place St George's Park is. From a personal perspective, I've been there once before with the scholarship programme, but to spend a week there in the facilities, looking at the pitches, obviously eating the food, that's the best thing about pre-season for me. 3 meals a day, and none of them were from fast food restaurants. So it was a great opportunity for the players to bond and, of course, get to know each other, because when you bring in players during the summer, it's important when you spend so much time with each other to get that bond quite early, and the banter was certainly flowing from the off. Now, of course, when you sign new players, there is an initiation, and of that initiation, 3 of the players had to get up and sing in front of their teammates at dinner. I don't think X Factor will be making any calls, to be honest with you, but Dan Golai was one of the singers. Reece Brown got away with it, of course, because he's been here previously. Ethan Hamilton, I think, was the pick of the bunch. He sang Build Me Up Buttercup, but unfortunately we don't have the rights to that performance, mainly because he doesn't want public humiliation, which I can totally understand. Of course, during our stay at St George's Park, we played 2 fixtures against Derby County and Stoke City under-23s. And on next week's show, ahead of the Carabao Cup tie with Cheltenham, we'll bring you all of the goals from the pre-season matches. So if you have missed any of the action, you can catch up. Remember, of course, that there are highlights from all of the games that we've played on the club's official YouTube channel, which is the Posh Official with youtube.com prior to it. Now, of course, if you are watching this show and you don't know about the fact that you can watch the games that are taking place live, remember, go to the club website, which is www.theposh.com, and you'll find all the details about how you can watch today's pre-season friendly against Coventry City. The first game kicks off at 1 p.m, with the second getting underway around about 3:20. It costs £7.50, but that allows you to watch both games of football. As you can see on the bottom, the team lineup is scrolling across. So the first game today, if you have missed the team lineup, in goal, Christy Pym. Left wing back is Dan Butler. The 3 centre halves are Mark Beavers, Nathan Thompson and Frankie Kent, with Joe Ward as the right wing back. Reece Brown and Jack Taylor in the centre of midfield. Ryan Broom just behind Sriki Dembele and Johnson Clark Harris, who makes his first start since joining the club earlier this week. Remember, you can, of course, see his first interview as a Peterborough player on the club website too. Now, during summer, you may have seen some of my lockdown interviews with former players, looking back and going through some memories about their time at the football club. But also, we spent some time speaking to some of our supporters too about what the club means to them. During that lockdown period, I caught up with Jamie Jones, who talked about how he got involved as a Posh fan. By Jamie Jones, big Posh fan. Well, Jamie, first and foremost, it's the question that everybody gets asked. How did you end up being a Peterborough United fan? How did it work for you?
Yeah, born and raised, really. Born and raised in Stand Grounds. Now kind of live in Woodston. Yeah, so as a 6-year-old, I remember my granddad sneaking me under the turnstiles at Glebe Road, as used to happen. He would pay, and I would sneak under the turnstile. Really since then, yeah, loved it. Loved the noise and the expectation of the crowds. Even though the team weren't that great at that time, went on the brilliant FA Cup run of the kind of mid-80s, which was great. And then yeah, just really since then, it's always been part of my life. When I went away to university, when I lived in London for a bit, it was always how quickly could I get home, or how much money could I spend on club call back in the day when we all used to do that. My telephone bills were exorbitant at the time. Yeah, and it's I think this period now has been the longest time that it's not kind of been a real part of our lives to go and watch a match. Yeah, which is difficult for us all.
Can you remember early away games? Did you go away from home, or was it a case of I'm going to go to all the home games and then going to follow it on teletext, or as you say, club call?
Yeah, as a young kid, didn't go to away games, mainly because I used to go with my granddad who went to every home game, didn't go to away games. So I didn't start going to away games till, as a teenager, you start going with your mates, and yeah, that kind of very early 90s. So really, the first season I remember going away, probably 89, 90. That trip to Burnley where we lost 4-1 and the whole of Peterborough seemed to go. And all I remember as a 14-year-old is they had anti-climb paint on the fences, and I'd got up there in my school coat and absolutely ruined it. Got home to a very, very unhappy mum. I'd ruined my school coat. But then, yeah, I think you get to that age, you get a little kind of part-time jobs, because I couldn't have a Saturday job because obviously I was going to Posh with part-time jobs that just meant you could start to afford the coach and the train, and lots of different journeys around that time that really remain some of my favourite ones. The trip to Middlesbrough where we all got turned round just as we got there in the cup, and in the second time of playing that when we lost, obviously very sad. I was only 15. Our coach broke down just outside Pontefract. We didn't get back to London Road till about 6 o'clock in the morning. Where I found the police waiting for me because my mum was so worried that she'd rang the police to say I hadn't got home. Yeah, other great ones that lots of people recall. That I think that might have been 91 away at Lincoln in a midweek game on the open terrace, where I don't know if they thought maybe about 200 Posh were turning up, and it felt like thousands did, and they just kept moving us along. Yeah, they were some great times, and obviously, like everything, it helps when the team is successful, which really we were just moving into that successful stage at that time.
When I speak to other people about the obviously Wembley '92, everyone talks about the final, but the semi-finals kind of get a little bit overlooked. And when you look at Wembley 2000, obviously Faz's hat-trick, and obviously in the games against MK Dons, those games against Huddersfield, were you there?
Yeah, for both. The home game was raucous. I always say it very much overlooked. Mick Halser's equaliser in the home leg was crazy, and then we went to Leeds Road, as was at Huddersfield, packed into that away end. It was a really boisterous atmosphere, and yeah, the scenes. You watch it on YouTube when Steve Cooper's goal goes in. I genuinely think of all the ends I've been in, that away end. Just people just lost their minds. It was crazy, absolutely. Legs and arms everywhere. It really was brilliant. That was a brilliant night. And I think of all the away days, that would be right up there as my favourite. Yeah, Wembley, like you say, that year to watch Posh win at Wembley was something. I was still quite a young kid, but something you couldn't really imagine. It just didn't happen. England played at Wembley, and the big teams in Division 1 at the time. But yeah, nights like Huddersfield, nights like the MK Dons game in 2011 were just really special, because I think it's the sense of knowing that something amazing is coming after that once you've won it as well.
Taking the time during the summer to speak to us. It's always good to hear from supporters, and particularly during this period of time where, of course, matches are behind closed doors. It really does hit home. Our football is nothing without supporters. Now, we are joined by Safety Officer Sye Roberts. Now, there's a lot that's gone into getting this game on today, even behind closed doors. Now, when you talk about protocols and zones and all that kind of stuff, where do you even begin to start? Because it's changing so frequently.
It changes weekly, Phil, to be fair. At the moment, we're to version 5 of behind closed doors, which then changed its name 2 weeks ago. Where are we at? It's really complicated, and actually this is more probably difficult than actually having fans. due to the regulations and rules and zonage. You can't go here, you can't go there. Luckily, you can go everywhere. But moving forward, we've got a whole new catalogue of regulations coming out for Monday or Tuesday to get fans introduced back into the fans. That's the headache. This is the headache, that's the big headache.
In terms of just looking at the stadium as a whole today, the things that have changed. So first and foremost, as the manager mentioned in his interview, the first team that got changed in the venue and the away team got changed in the home and away dressing room. Why is that?
Well, ultimately, a lot of it's down to the player sizes today because obviously we're playing the 2 games. But ultimately, moving forward, we should be able to revert back to normal for future games. Today's a little bit of an inconvenience, but ultimately the red zone couldn't fit the amount of way players expected, needing shower facilities. They take sort of priority over showers because the fight to come. So a bit of a mess up today. Admittedly, we've had to move with the times and move with the flow. But yeah, completely headache for the first team. That won't continue. Moving forward, next game, so on and so forth, we get a bit back to a bit of normality. But even in terms of where they park, they need to come out of their car, which is sterile, they're sterile, into a sterile zone, into a sterile corridor, all with individuals, risk assessed, pass, tested, so on and so forth, who are authorised only to be down there. It's a headache. But it's enjoyable.
I mean, looking at the main stand at this moment in time, so you've got the 2 dugouts as normal. Now that is a red zone, and the zone next to it is also a red zone, because obviously, as you say, today we've got two lots of players, so there's an overflow area for them to sit. The media that are here today, and the majority are amber, so they can't mix, they can't cross-contaminate with those that are red. So there's lots of signage, lots of stickers going down. From your point of view, when you're planning all of this, how long is it taking to get it to a point whereby you're happy and safe doing so?
Last week alone took me in one document 60 hours. That's how much work I'm having to put into at the moment just to get it this game ready. Moving forward, it's obviously more complex, but even about the dugout, it's normal. It's really not normal. You know, the seat where you normally sit next to another player has been wiped out ever since it's been made available. So in reality now, the dugout's 4 times the width. And then everyone who is red, the medics, first aid, stretcher teams, they're all being extended into red as well. So actually the dugout, like we know it, it's not like we know it anymore. It's right extended into block D, block E, block B. It's really quite painful in terms of the amount of work needed. Question in terms of hours though, it's a lot of hours. I've spent a lot of nights waking up.
In terms of supporters, obviously people watching this show today are obviously going to be watching the stream later on, and they're desperate to obviously get back into the stadium. When we get the go-ahead from the government to do reduced capacity, which is what we're looking at this moment in time, how do you plan a stadium like this, which is very unique in its circumstance, because we're standing in a terrace, you've got an older stand that doesn't have a concourse, you've got a new stand that has a wider concourse, and a relatively new stand that has a sort of minute concourse in comparative terms to the Desco. How do you accommodate supporters in those particular areas?
It is extremely difficult, I don't want to bore you with all the detail, but ultimately for anyone watching, the amount of fans who can fit in the stands is dictated by how many people can fit in your concourse. Some of the stands we have don't have concourses, so we're working out with the local authorities how we can push out into external zones to create additional space of people if they don't social distance themselves. But every stand, you're right. North stand is different to blue because the seat width's different. Desco stand's different again. It's got a concourse. The seats are 500, they're 400, they're 300. It's a bit of a headache. And then here, believe it or not, this is actually the easiest one because it's an open space. But even then, we're dictated by how many exits and entrances we've got, systems and flows. It all needs working out. But believe it or not, we're actually at the stage where we're in conversation with the local authorities, the SGSAs. The guidance has been read, it's been digested. My interpretation is in with them, waiting feedback. There is the magic number, we do have it. Will I share it? No, not yet. But there is the magic number we're working towards.
You talk about the local authority because I think people probably watching this will think, well, surely it's just a case of I can social distance, I can sit there, he can sit there, happy days, we'll all wear a mask, happy days. But you have to speak to the local authority every day. Obviously, ultimately, you're governed by what you're being told you can do, and then accommodating from there. How much conversations are going on daily between you and those kind of authorities?
Daily, at the moment. In terms of what power the local authorities have, again, people, like you say, just do what we want, let's put it in place. actually we're governed by a safety certificate, which is run by the SGSA, which is a local, a government agency which are running on behalf of the local government. So ultimately, they hold the green light for us. So we've got to satisfy them, and we're doing everything to mitigate everything we can in these areas where we've got concern, and present it in such a way.
Is that part of your safety officer role, of course? It's flying footballs in normal circumstances. There'll be a sign there that says, beware of flying footballs. We're doing a live show, so I'm pretty sure Tars is aiming for us.
Yeah, ultimately, my aim is never to stand in.
Yeah, exactly.
In this area. So.
In terms of your role, I mean, people may recognise you because you've obviously been connected with the football club for many years in your previous role. Can you just give us a bit of background on how you've ended up part of our team?
Part of your team? Well, let's be honest, it's exciting times with PB United. We've got a new stadium coming. We're a massive organisation in the schemes of things, and actually to have it being run by part-time staff and before wasn't a bad thing, but ultimately the demands from the local authorities and all these people now that want to see this, see that, tourism and so forth, unfortunately just need someone there now a bit more full-time to really sort of deliver that and satisfy the local authorities. The demand is so great now of what we've got to deliver. It's not just me, we're doing in the background doing all the bits and bobs and so on and so forth. The demand is so high, so that's why I've transitioned over to really help out. But ultimately, the new ground's coming. That needs a lot of work. And I'm buzzing for that. Buzzing.
Well, brilliant. Thank you very much, Sye, for joining us. We know you're a very busy man. If you just come with me, Chris, you can see behind me the players are warming up ahead of today's game with Coventry City. The first game, remember, kicks off at 1 p.m. If you've not yet purchased a stream, you can do so by going to the official website, which is theposh.com, and following the instructions from there. Now, early on in the show, you saw part one of our interview with midfielder Lewis Reed. Here's part two. Coventry were probably the best side in the league last year in terms of how they played. They played very well against us. I think we got a late point. I think Mo scored late on in that game. Obviously, they've gone up to the Championship. They're a tough side to play and probably ideal preparations for us.
Yeah, well, we're aspiring to be a Championship side by the end of this season, so we're going to come up against teams like Coventry if we fulfil our potential. So it will be a good test. I know we had Derby a couple of weeks ago that was a really good test as well. So yeah, it's just getting back into it and like I say, getting used to playing without fans and empty stadiums.
Did it take a long while, obviously during lockdown, when you got your own programmes, but that's essentially fitness, isn't it, and ticking over. Did it feel really long, weird? Because obviously such a long period of time without being on the training ground, and then to come back and then suddenly games are being thrust upon you. It takes a little while to adjust. Yeah,
it was strange, obviously, during lockdown, not having anyone to sort of just go for a kickabout with. Obviously, most days we're in training and around the lads, so we got the fitness side of it with the running programmes that we were sent and gym programmes, but nothing's quite the same as coming into work every day and playing with your teammates.
When you look at the schedule coming up with obviously the rest of the pre-season games, but then the league season and the cup games, it's going to be a real tough season from both physically and mentally. Is it a case of making sure that almost the person next to you is as pumped as you are, because you're going to need everybody?
I think we're quite a close group as it is, so every day we're pushing each other to be better. I think the squad depth that we've got now is brilliant. There's cover for people in different positions and there's lots of competition for places, so I think with that in place we just keep pushing each other on.
I think you get slightly overlooked as just an old person when you're not, because when you look at the rest of the squad, obviously there are a lot of young players, but you would still come in that group as classed as a young player. Do you feel a young player? I think you're sometimes detrimental because you've obviously played a lot of games.
Yeah, not after games I don't. I feel like an old man after them, but no, I think the group is quite a young group, and because of how young you've got, like Iddies, Serharts that are only 19, 20 years old. So as a 23-year-old, I kind of see myself as being able to give them advice as an experienced player. I think we've got a good mix. Obviously, you've got Beeves and Boydie, Tomo, who are the old heads, and they kind of oversee everything. But I think it's key that people like myself and Ivans that have played a lot of games can sort of help the younger ones out.
Yeah, you like to get stuck in every game that you play, and it's pre-season slightly weird because you kind of want to get involved in the 50-50s, but then part of your brain's thinking, not too sure that's the right time to be doing it.
I try to play every game as if it is a competitive one, whether it's pre-season or not, but I know we've been told to kind of look after ourselves a bit through pre-season, make sure that when the season starts that everyone's fit and ready to go. So it's difficult to pull out, and at the time you don't really think about it, you're just fully committed.
On the technical side, in terms of looking at the starting 11 and the formation that we could potentially play and have played in pre-season towards the end of last season, with wing-backs, is this central midfield role, in particular the deep-lying midfield role, key to get the switch out to those wing-backs and getting them forward? Because you can't be playing sort of slow, you've got to mix it up a bit.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work through pre-season on different sort of movements to get midfielders on the ball and get the wing-backs on it. And I think the more we work on it, the more it's going to come together, and I think it will be a real threat in this division this year.
And I think it's a challenge as well as a deep lying midfielder, because you don't want to go too deep to get the ball off three centre halves. You've got to almost find a niche in the middle of the park of where you want to receive it to be able to influence it.
Yeah, and that's where the coaching staff have been brilliant. They've got a clear plan of what they want us to do, and every day they're drilling it into us to make sure that we all understand it, both midfielders and other positions. So we can all work in unison, really.
It's interesting watching training when you hear people from the sideline saying, don't stand next to him or get an angle so you're not alongside him, because obviously if you're playing with a 2 and a 1 in front, you kind of got to mix where you're receiving the ball. Is that something that is communication more than anything? Yeah,
I think so, and it almost becomes a habit. Once you've done a lot of sessions working on it, it does, like I say, it becomes a habit, and everyone kind of knows where they're going and work off each other. But as you said, the communication side to it is key as well.
Welcome back to the Weston Homes Stadium. As you can see behind me, the Peterborough United players are continuing to warm up ahead of the first fixture with Championship side Coventry City. Remember, that game kicks off at 1 p.m, and you can buy the stream by going to the club's official website, which is theposh.com, and following the instructions from there. The stream for both games is an inclusive price of £7.50. Now, as you may have seen, the team lineup has been scrolling along the bottom. If you get to see it, you can see it by using your eyes. It's just along the bottom of the screen at this moment in time. But if you are desperate for me to tell you, I will. In goal, Christy Pym. Left wing back is Dan Butler. Now, Darren Ferguson said earlier on in our chat that he probably expects Dan Butler to last probably around about an hour or 75 minutes. He may not do the full 90 at left wing back. There are a number of substitutes available for that first game. The three centre halves, Nathan Thompson, who of course was named as vice captain of the club this week, deputy of course to Mark Beavers, who's also in that back line alongside Frankie Kent. Joe Ward will be the right wing back. In midfield, Reece Brown is joined by Jack Taylor, and Ryan Broom is the man in the number 10 position, with Suiki Dembele partnering Johnson Clark-Harris in attack. Now, Johnson Clark-Harris, as I said, the gaffer mentioned earlier on in his interview with us that he doesn't expect Johnson to play the full 90 minutes, but knowing him as a character, he'll want to stay out there as long as he can. The second team lineup will be made available in between the two fixtures on our club official social channels, and remember, you can view updates on Posh Match Live. Now, we welcome your feedback of this show. As I said right at the top, this is the first time we've attempted anything like this. If you have any feedback, you can email jake@theposh.com. In fact, we've had a few comments now from Leslie Farley, who says, come on Posh, they've waited a long time for this, haven't we all? I think getting back here to play football at the Weston Homes Stadium is what it's all about. Billy Cole says, good luck lads up the Posh, and hopefully we can finish the pre-season in good manner. Now, DMAT 102, 8 months since I've been at our stadium. Sad to see it without our fans. Barrett is here today and we'll be watching the game. Gene Venters can see my seat and can't be there. I must have gone and sat in it. I must do that for next show, is to sit in Gene Venters' seat. Good luck, lads. Enjoy the game. Remember, you can contact us via social media or email jake@theposh.com if you want to give us any feedback from today's show. Now, we'll be making this a regular occurrence, starting with next Saturday's Carabao Cup first round tie with Cheltenham Town. All the details around the stream for that will be released during the week. Now, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you haven't, as I said earlier, make sure you email jake@theposh.com. He's producing this show, making sure everything is put in place. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you don't want to see, and hopefully we can make this a regular fixture. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the stream. I'll see you next week.